So it's been a nice mix, which is cool.
That's really cool.
So
nice.
I think if you're in a space where you want to have kids, you're trying to, or you've just started, lots of information or resources for you to pull from, which is the whole point of it.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Really, really useful. And it's something that people are talking about now.
Yeah.
And that you used to hide away, didn't you?
Exactly. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Milk and Mummies. I'm your host, Rachel, and today I'm here with casting director Amy Jackson, who is now a new mum. How are you doing today?
Good. Very well. Very well. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Amazing.
We thought I might not be.
Yeah.
But we're here. We made it.
Yeah. How's your night into morning been?
Yeah. So my little one is had a very bad cold last night, and honestly sounded like Darth Vader. Like, when you're there, she's still sleeping next to us, and it was just like total snot, and she got very frustrated.
Oh, bless her.
So then she woke up at she wakes up a lot at night anyway, but she woke up and it took so long to get her back to sleep. So we were up most of the morning until she finally went to sleep again.
Bless
but
her.
is
that
bunged up.
Is that your first time having your little one be ill through the night, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think she's had a few. It's winter, isn't it? So I feel like it was always going to be. She's had a few colds. She's never hugely bothered by them. Okay, really. This one is like, I think it's the breathing thing, isn't it? Because she just like can't
breathe properly.
And then even when she's feeding, she like finding that hard as well, because you're like trying to like come up for air.
Yeah.
So
I remember my little one. She's now 2, but the first time Zena had a real cold. A fluey cold, we were away, and it was because of the air conditioning and getting used to that being on and off throughout the night. But she was so frustrated and so angry, but there's nothing we can do but ride it out no matter what you may be given. We were given her medication wise, so that was not a fun time. So the night was monstrous. So I sympathize with anyone who has a young person, a young baby even dealing with a cold or flu situation, because it is
you feel so helpless, don't you?
Yeah.
Like obviously lying down is not very comfortable at all for them. So they're trying to sniffle and trying to breathe. But she doesn't feel. I thought she was going to be miserable when she woke up this morning, and she was actually in quite a good mood. So I was like, fine, we're carrying on the day.
Yeah,
we're
and
all
it's now
okay.
more like, how are you doing now? Because she's absolutely fine. It's not you.
Yeah, I'm just tired. I'm constantly tired though.
I wanted to, talk to you a little bit more about life before motherhood. So it'd be great for us to understand, I guess, what did you do before baby came into space?
Yeah. So work-wise, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm a casting director. So I did that before, and I've been doing that for many years. So I guess the like main like kind of thing before having a baby was I went out on my own. I set up my own business, Amy Jackson Casting, in I think it's about 4 years ago now. Okay. 2022, 2024, 2025. Yes. So that was kind of my main pre-baby kind of drive of getting that set up and building up clients and building up the work. And that kind of happened right up until she was here. I obviously freelancers don't get a great maternity, and so you need to try and work as much as you can until that point. You're not going to get a luxurious maternity pay. So maternity leave is slightly non-existent.
No, it's just you kind of carve out the time where you can, and then if you don't, you still have to figure that out and work that out, right? Exactly. So did you always know you wanted to be a mum?
Yes, I did. I think I was, when I was younger, I was really obsessed with babies. Okay. And I used to babysit a lot, and I used to like play with dolls and pretending you had a baby. That was the go-to game always, was like being a mum and what we do with all the friends and all that. So that was always something that was, I think I was always interested in babies and always interested in in that and very excited about being a mum. So it was a part of, I did some nannying as well. I remember doing nannying when I was younger. So yeah, it's always been a part, and I always known, but I didn't know kind of when or the reality of that and how, and what age I'd be. I mean, I think I used to think, you know, by 21 I'd be married and have a kid and all of this stuff, you know, like the innocence of children.
Amy, I had my life planned. By 24 I was going to be doing this. At 26 this. I literally had a whole roadmap. And then, as you said, the reality of life and just adulting and adulthood and just sleep and lack of sleep, all of those things just really let you know what your life is really going to be like. So I hear you. I was completely there. I get that. With the industry that you were in, or maybe I guess getting into the industry, did it put you off motherhood in any way, or did it look more difficult just because of how we work and what the demands of your job?
Yeah, I remember actually Kate Rhodes James did as part of the Casting Directors Guild, and they did quite a lot of like talks and Q&As with casting directors. And one of the subjects that did come up was having a family and how that looked and how you manage that as a casting director. And she was totally honest and said, like, it's really hard, you know, it is an intense job and it takes up a lot of time, and having the balance and being able to do them both is gonna take a lot. So I remember thinking at that point, I was like, wow, I hadn't probably quite thought of like what that would look like and how that would look. But then I think there is so many, it's kind of changing, and I think, you know, my parents are of a generation, they were both actors, and they my dad's still an actor, but I remember my mum said she gave up when she had me, because she used to her agent used to tell her, like, you can't say that you have kids, like when you go into the auditions, or, you know, don't mention that you've got babies. And my mum was like, well, but that's a part of who I am, like why would I not mention that? And it all became kind of very difficult for her to continue her path as an actor, and to also be a mum, because she just kind of, they didn't quite fit well. And I think now it's definitely changing, and I think both those roles can fit together, and people are understanding and people are aware. I think there are probably quite a lot who aren't still, but there are people generally who understand that there are these two things going on, and lots.
It's true. And even for myself, I think I didn't know. We knew we wanted to do this, that's grand. And even with work, it was like, okay, well, wherever I go, baby's going. So I will always figure it out. But what's been really, really incredible is that production-wise, whatever I've worked on, especially when I was breastfeeding and things like that, they worked with me. What did I need? What would be useful for me? So it was great to have the team, or whatever the job I was working on, it was great to have them so open and so helpful. Again, I'm not the only parent that's on set. Yes, I might be newer, but there are other people having and facing these same constraints. So that was phenomenal to hear. So it's also great speaking to other actors or anyone else in this space who are older than me, and I guess comparing the struggles or challenges that they had with kids, because similar to this, they may not talk about the fact that they had kids, or you definitely couldn't bring your kid to work, or there was no one was going to create a creche for you and any other person's child or anything like that. So it is phenomenal to be in this space. Has your mum ever voiced what she's seeing now with female actors in the space? Like, has she ever voiced the comparisons?
I think she's still kind of, there is slightly a thing in her that's kind of ingrained into, like, you know, you need to just kind of crack on and get on with the work, and there is that sense of it. But I remember being worried about like taking some work on like earlier on, and like knowing how to manage it and things, and she was just like, very good at just compartmentalizing things and
Yeah.
being like, no, you know, you need to put your mum hat on
Yeah.
and your work hat on, and you kind of, it's about trying to navigate the two.
Yeah.
So I think she sees that. Yeah, I think she sees the progression as a really good thing.
Yeah.
And probably maybe slightly wishes that she had that kind of experience
course,
as an
yeah.
actor, because I think she was made to feel like she had to
Yeah,
choose. And my dad was an actor at the same time, so I think it was much it was much easier for my mum to fall into
Yeah.
the childcare
Yeah.
side of it and not work, and
Yeah.
my dad to work. And
Into that side,
yeah,
yeah. No, I completely
so
get
it's
that.
tricky.
How was your, or rather, what was your journey through motherhood like? Like, okay, you've discovered you're pregnant. Now, how did that whole journey unfold?
Wow, yeah. You know what? It feels like such a long time ago since I
Yeah.
was pregnant, and it's not like you know. It's like
How old is baby
not-
now?
But, she's 5 months.
5 months, okay, yeah.
So it's really not that long ago at all. But it does feel like you just remembering
Yeah.
that time you had, and like I used to worry about the silliest things and
Yeah.
all of that, and it's my pregnancy was, I had like sadly kind of had a miscarriage before I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So I was really like, we were trying for a while to kind
Yeah.
of get pregnant. So when I did find out, I was very excited and really happy. But also I think scared. I'd only just started my company, and as a young kind of casting director, you kind of have to, this is your time to kind of take everything on and to say yes to things. And I was like, maybe this is a tricky time to do that, you know. So I was concerned about that slightly, but and also just kind of financially of how to manage things. You know, our industry has been tricky for the past few years.
Yes, that's right.
And last year was quite quiet work-wise. So I kind of made the choice to go and work with a casting director on a kind of bit more of a full-time project for a bit. And that allowed me to kind of feel a bit more confident going into pregnancy, and knowing that, you know, just before I was to have Clover, that I had some kind of solid work there. So your priorities, I guess, already changed like before they even get here. You know, you're already thinking, okay, well now I'm going to have to think about this. And whereas if I hadn't had that, I think I would have sat back and been okay with perhaps the quietness of work. But so that kind of shadowed it, I guess. But yeah, I think after the first trimester, I really enjoyed my pregnancy. I loved the second trimester, and the third trimester we had a few ups and downs in terms of like scares and slight kind of potential kind of issues and things that came up, and that kind of made things a bit anxiety inducing towards that last bit. But the second trimester I felt amazing. I felt great, and I was like, this is amazing.
Right, yeah. That was me my second trimester. I was like, I have arrived. Look, it's great. That was literally me.
Yeah.
I think
Your
my
energy,
first completely changes, right?
Yeah.
The first I was just very tired. So, and nauseous a lot. I was never sick, just nausea and tiredness. Whenever my body decided to shut down, that's what we were doing, and that's it. And I almost felt like I'd rather be sick, so at least then that whole process is completed. But a friend of mine was like, no, it just continues even if you are someone who is being physically ill. So that was the worst of it for me in terms of sort of, I guess, typical pregnancy symptoms. But yeah, I really enjoyed mine as well. Yeah. Were you surprised that you enjoyed your pregnancy in the way that you did?
I don't know. I think I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
I think I actually thought, I looked forward to being pregnant at the time. And yeah, I think I don't, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think whether what I expected and what I matched up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, No.
That's fine. That's fine. All things, I guess, birthing choices, preparation. How was that like for you? How are you someone who likes to be super clued up and do your research, or are you quite what would be and kind of go with the flow that way?
No, I definitely am a
Yeah.
planner, and I definitely go into kind of overdrive of like
Yeah.
too much research sometimes, and
Fair.
then like too much research and then overwhelm myself.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew I had all the apps. I knew what was going on at what point, and like was very clued up on everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had definitely prepared. I did hypnobirthing throughout. We kind of did the Positive Birth Company.
Yeah, same.
So we did that course, and yeah, quite enjoyed the kind of. I think there's so much I didn't know about actual labour and birth that I learned, which was really fascinating just from that. Yeah. I don't know how the hypnobirthing worked, like how it helped when I actually was actually in the moment. I was like, I think I would have said just take everything and take all the drugs.
Really?
I was like, look back at it and it was all too late, and I was like, no,
damn it,
do it all.
No.
I really wanted to be one of those like wholesome kind of holistic. I wanted to take it holistically, and I wanted to go down the water birth center in the water birth, all of that.
Yeah.
And in the end, I was actually induced. So I was induced and had quite an intense, like a quick but then kind of painful, intense labour.
Okay.
And yeah, so I probably went like against all the things I thought.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I too hypnobirthing extraordinaire, and I am still, again, what worked, what didn't. I think for me, the affirmations are what helped me through, like understanding that I can do it, and whatever my mantras were, I had like two main ones. That kind of really helps. But again, my birth was also really quick, 4 hours and 15 minutes.
Wow.
So in terms of being able to set up the space or do all this sort of stuff to create your own, because I was in a delivery suite, so I didn't have the time to do that. Because the second my waters popped at 6 a.m, it was go time. And once it was all finished, my the midwives in the room were like, yeah, you're someone who gives birth quickly, so if you ever go again, the second your water, get to a hospital ASAP. So I was like, okay, great. But just the mantras, visualization didn't work for me. Scents or smells didn't work for me. Our music playlist didn't do anything for me. It was like, I think I wanted to be super aware to what was happening, because again, I'm that geek in the sense of I want to feel every single thing and know what's happening. But the pain is obviously incredibly real. So I'm on gas and air, which I still am so sorry if it did anything or not. I'm in that space. But it was phenomenal feeling everything that was happening to me physically, and at the same time understanding I have to get through this. I can't escape this, and the baby's coming. So being able to balance the awe and wonder, oh my gosh, the pain, I can do this, all at the same time until it is over. So I hear you.
Yeah.
I only know a couple of people who can really like swear by hypnobirthing, like it was phenomenal X, Y, and Z. And maybe I will be one of those people too. I mean, at some point, who knows?
Yeah.
But
I think the breathing
Yes.
was something I definitely held on to, and especially through the early kind of labour and the breath, breathing through the contractions.
Yeah.
But similar to you, as soon as my waters broke, it was like
go time.
Very quick, painful, and like nothing was really going to help, I don't think, at that point. So it was like, I was like on another level at that point. But yeah, gosh, wild.
Taking you back.
Yeah.
With the things that you do, you learnt in your journey. My English today is just appalling. So, but then this is nothing new with me.
Is it Monday?
Right?
It's Monday.
Exactly. With the things that you learned, you mentioned that there were things that you didn't know, or you obviously discovered while you were doing your research and preparing for, I guess, for birth and that side of everything, motherhood. What sort of surprised you the most? And things that in terms of things that you just didn't know, or didn't understood how it worked with labour and things.
I think birth, like, the mechanics of like the anatomy and the actual.
Yeah.
I remember the first kind of part of that course.
Yeah.
Of how the body works and how it's all moving and the movements and all that. Like that was fascinating. I didn't really even know what that side of birth looked like, I guess. And I think like the contractions, like how they would feel and what that side of it would like. I think you don't ever know until you're there. I was
going to say the best description was, think of your worst period pain.
Yeah.
Just that and multiply it by 10 or whatever, whatever the comparison was.
Yeah.
Basically, it was that. It is nothing like that. At all. It's a complete unknown sensation, to me at least.
Yeah.
You can't
kind of really...
I can't describe it.
Describe it, no. No, definitely. And I guess the length of... I kind of didn't really know how long it would be or like any of that side of it.
Yeah.
I think as well, no one can... I was very shocked at like how... First of all, how painful it can be. I think I felt a bit lied to as well. I was like, why has no one said this is so bad? And it's like, well, obviously you're not going to go around. You're not going to go around talking about childbirth and saying. I really wanted to like love it and be one of those people who could kind of leave and be like, that was the best thing and amazing thing, but I found it so awful.
Really?
And yeah.
Okay,
I like
all right.
apart from obviously the finished
product.
finished product. But even then I think it takes a while. You're a bit like in shock,
no,
aren't
you
you?
are.
Of
It's
like,
true.
whew.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing about motherhood. Like I think no one can really prepare you for it.
Yeah, I agree.
And the kind of how I remember I used to look at friends who had babies, and there was a friend of mine who we went to stay with them after they had their first baby, and she was 6 weeks old, this baby, and I just hadn't, and I got to 6 weeks actually, and I sent her a voice note being like, I can't believe that we came to stay with you and you like put the guest bedroom up and like and I was like, I can't believe you did that, and how awful of us like to have just like been like, can we come and stay and visit the baby and and I was like, oh my goodness, like I'm so sorry. And she was like, I don't think you know until she was like, I was obviously happy to have you, but I think you just don't know until you're in that situation.
That's correct.
How you can be very like, oh yeah, but they just got a baby and they'll bring the baby, or the baby's there, and you don't really understand the kind of how mad it is and how early that is.
Right.
Like,
and so many people say that. I'm the same. I remember calling one of my best friends. I won't name her because I name her every time I tell the story. But I called and I apologized because I was like, not even so much coming to see her or anything like that, but it was more me forever trying to, come out, it'll be good for you, baby can stay with dad, and I think I'm being helpful, or you just need some encouragement so you can come out and do whatever else. But it's we had the conversation and she was laughing the whole way through. She's like, there was no point in her ever trying to explain it because she knew that I wouldn't, if you don't have a kid, you're not going to understand. So for her, there's nothing to even apologize because you don't know what you don't know. But the impact babies have in your space and your time, and the external, not necessarily external pressures, but I think everybody else is carrying on with their lives as normally, of course. So I think it is very hard for people to understand what this quote unquote disruption is to your time. And if something goes out of sync with your schedule, or baby isn't fine for whatever reason, it throws so many different things off at so many different times, whether it's they're sleeping or you're sleeping or whatever you've got planned, etc. So I understand the notion of there's no point in even expressing it because they're not going to get it, or they think you're being sensitive or dramatic about what's going on. And then also just when you get into this space yourself, just like, oh,
Yeah.
that's what that is. So
Yeah.
no, I hear you. But if your friend hosted you, she was fine. She manages, but she was fine.
she's like
You know.
absolute superwoman. I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
And then also, like, I used to think, I remember when I was pregnant thinking, there are so many TV shows and so many films and so much I want to catch up on.
Yeah.
And I want to watch over maternity. And
Yeah.
I thought in my head that would be how I'd spend my time watching and catching up on everything. I didn't watch anything. And I had no time to watch anything. Even like breastfeeding, you feel like you have to like prepare yourself for setting that time up and getting the TV show on. I used to just sit there looking into space, you know, or like doing something. Like there was no planning that like went on to catch up on all the TV. And I used to say like, why are people so bad at replying to messages? Because surely they're on their phone a lot. Like, and I was like, they you know, they'll just be sitting on the sofa with the baby.
Yeah.
They'll have their phone. They'll be, and now I'm like, again, totally sorry to ever think about how I felt about people not texting me back, because you're just like, texting back is like the last thing that you can kind of process of everything else in your list to do.
But again, you don't know what you don't know.
No.
So there's like there's just, I think, a grace that is extended all around. Like, I don't think any mom or new mom is even going to think harshly of their friends or family who are in that space, unless they're being douchey about it, then that's a whole different thing. But you're just not going to know. And I discovered, I think, during that time, breastfeeding and navigating that space, I think my social time was at maybe 3 to 4 a.m. or something, just because of what Zena's sleep schedule was like. And I found that there was a whole bunch of moms who were up at that time, and that's when you could catch up and do certain things. But it depends on your baby, depends on what you're facing and dealing with, and what your time is like. So it's just a brand new journey for everyone involved, and you just have to navigate and find your feet. During pregnancy, was working okay or balancing work okay? And now that baby's here, how are you managing that space as well now?
Yeah, I think it was okay when I was pregnant. I think I guess, like, in terms of like being, it's, you know, a lot of our job is the physical side of it. There's not huge amounts of physicality I needed to worry about. I remember doing auditions for We Might Regret This.
Okay, yeah.
In my first trimester, and I felt really sick at that point.
Okay.
And it was like, just as and also I remember, like, because I was battling with you know, getting pregnant again and all of the fertility things and trying to get pregnant again. So that time was mad. But when I did, I found it hard, because going into auditions and sitting in auditions all day, and like having to have like ginger biscuits and like things like that, you know,
to help you through.
because I remember feeling really, really nauseous at that point. But you couldn't tell anyone, so it was literally just crack on, and I wasn't going to kind of bring what I was going to the toilet every in between every person, or, you know, like all of those things.
I forgot about that.
You just had to hide it all. But then generally, like, the rest of the pregnancy was okay. I remember getting very tired in the third trimester, and just achy, and sitting at a desk all day wasn't like the most enjoyable thing, like in terms of just feeling like you needed to get up and move around, and but I worked right kind of up until the kind of week before, really. So it was all okay working.
Okay, that's cool.
And then I guess now I'm only kind of just starting to kind of dip my toe back into work. So I wasn't sure how. I remember before actually talking to my agent and saying, because there was a film that was in development before that was going to hopefully pick up, and they wanted to pick up in February. Okay. So that would have been November, really December, January, February. It's 4 months. Yeah. Okay. And I remember at the time being like, yeah, that'll be fine, and like saying to my agents who both also have children, like, that would be fine. And I think they were very good at being like, yeah, like nodding and along. And I guess like the me before, I got to February and I was like, absolutely no way. Like I'm still,
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I think it's only recently I had quite Clover was quite a very challenging up until 4 months really. She had colic and a lot of crying, and we then diagnosed her with silent reflux, and there was like lots of things that went on that we were constantly trying to analyze why she was so upset at night and what all of the normal things that kind of happen. But it was quite it was quite a tough first 4 months. So thinking about work at that point would have just been like absolutely not.
Fair enough.
And so now she's nearing 6 months. I feel I can see that I can start using my brain in that way. But my brain was just like mush.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is quite a lot, but
I get it. Sorry.
Now you compartmentalize. You can. I'm very good now at just kind of being like, okay, so that is that.
Yeah.
And now this is work. And actually, I wasn't as good before at being able. I used to just think about everything all the time.
Okay. Pre-baby.
Pre-baby.
Okay.
Yeah. Pre-Clover. Whereas now I'm very good at being like, right, okay, this is my day where I don't have childcare and I've got Clover. Rather than trying to think about everything else that I have to do in work, like I have to switch that side of my brain off now. And now this is like my Clover time. And then the next day when my mum, when I have childcare or whatever, that can then be my work brain.
Yeah.
And I think you get better at doing that, perhaps.
Yeah. How are you finding? You just described that switch. It's true. You do. This is your time with your little one. This is the time with work. So no, I feel like you touched on it already, but you just said something that I wonder how are you finding that change? Because I'm someone who, again, doing all the things, like I said, I sing, I act, I write, I this, I can travel, I can do all the things. Great. Now I have to make sure my time is more just regimented in what I want to do to make sure I can complete the things that I want to get completed. Grand. But do you ever find is it still a work in process to get that scheduling right for yourself? You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
And
because you're building your own business as well, and that is another baby. That's constant, right? So it's how are you finding the balance? I struggle with it sometimes, to be honest.
Totally. And again, I'm still so new to it, I guess. What I'm finding hard is, with we have a lot of like things to read.
Yes, of course.
And scripts to read, and even before I'm kind of any payment or anything has been, it's literally the first step of reading a script and making a decision of whether you want to do it. And that side, it's not as easy to read a whole full length feature script like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, I think I've been reading one for so long, and that's hard.
So you just saying that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and you have a script to read.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we have sides to read.
Yeah.
And however many slides you have, how many pages, even that's a challenge. So whole script. Yeah. I was just like, oh yeah, of course. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. That just really cracks me up. So I can't ever complain about slides again.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, go on.
And then I can't even, like, you can't kind of, you want to, everything moves so quickly. Like there was a job that I got offered, and they sent the script over, and I obviously said, yeah, I'll go away and have a read of it. Okay. And by the time I'd read it and went back to them, they'd kind of offered it to someone else. Okay. And so I was like, this is what we're playing at now. Is that obviously time is a pressure in our industry. They're not going to hold off, but now I realize that I do have to keep the pace up, and I do have to keep communicating and keep these emails going back and forth until kind of, because they're not going to wait around. There are other people out there, and there's constant kind of stuff in our industry where they're offering people less money, or all of that, and so I have to be on top of that, I guess. That's something I found challenging, definitely. So it's definitely still a learning, working progress.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it won't be the last thing that I experience like that, you know?
Okay, yes. I'm 2
Yeah.
years in and I am still
Yeah.
learning. I am still learning. It's definitely easier when they are easier. I don't know if it's I was gonna say it's definitely easier the older they get because you're able to communicate certain things better. And again, my little one is 2, so with Zena, she kind of understands when mummy's working or not, and so she might come and sit next to me and do her work too. And by work, it's her coloring or whatever else, or trying to fight me for the laptop or what have you. So that kind of makes things a bit more manageable, I suppose. But where possible, I definitely try to whatever work stuff I have going on, let me have that away from her. So it's my time with her is concentrated and focused, and work is concentrated and focused, even if it's half an hour, whatever. So there's definitely that. But because if you're in a space, I guess just anyone who's who's self-employed, you're forever things are forever taken over, and if you're creative, you're forever dreaming new things. So is being able to manage that time and those moments of creativity whilst being present to your baby. And obviously this whole time I'm talking about the baby, I haven't even talked about my partner. And I try not to talk about the partner stuff in it because that's a whole other network of minefields and stuff. But it's just how you manage your time is just so key. So I think if ever anyone has any tips or tricks or hacks, I'm always excited to hear about it, because what works for you could definitely work for me or what have you. And it's just all very useful. So yeah, it's just...
it's the balance.
Yeah.
The balance is real.
Mm-hmm.
I think as well, something that's helped me is that I used to work kind of recently kind of because of the ease. Her room, my office is now her room, and all of that kind of situation means that I don't have like a working space.
Yeah.
And I've just taken kind of on a space because I think the separation of like getting out of the flat, like if my mum will come and take her and go off and for a walk and take her for the day, but if I'm in that space and I'm working there and I'm trying to get things done, I'll think of other things that need doing. Of course, that like it all like starts and actually I'm like, no, this is my time to work, so I need to put myself in a space that I can work and focus on that only and nothing else that like creep into it kind of thing. So I think going somewhere else to work and going to find that kind of workspace is definitely helping.
That's really cool. From a casting director side, would you want to in any case, but are you able to bring your kids to work, if that makes sense? Because I can definitely be in a space, an audition room, and some of us actors will have our kids around or whatever else, and you can kind of navigate that with reception or with someone else who might feel comfortable there with you. But from the casting director side, are you able to?
No, not really. No. I mean, I think it's not really. I know casting directors who have been in auditions and they've had a space, for their baby to be in that space, but not in that room, but in that space. And if they're breastfeeding, they can go in, and use those breaks as they can. But I still think it's slightly not kind of accepted yet, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Would it be difficult to do anyway from a practicality standpoint?
It would be from like, I guess, an audition situation. If you had no childcare and you were coming in and leading auditions, I just don't think anyone would kind of understand that or necessarily. Okay. But I know that when you're working on the admin side of things and you have to have a very good assistant to be assisting you. Yeah, I feel like that is probably more doable. Yeah. But I think audition spaces and things like that, maybe not so much.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, cool. Yeah, I wondered how that could potentially work. I don't think I've ever seen that in the space in a room really, but I definitely recall. Or I've taken Zena to many an audition before, which again has been great. If ever I needed to notify anyone beforehand, I have been able to. There are times when she steals the show and she's booked the room and I haven't, and that's absolutely fine. So like, we definitely have those moments. But yeah, I have always wondered how that would work on the flip side and how almost how understanding actors would be if they came into a space and they saw that, if that would
Yeah.
be fine or not. So that's yeah.
I guess
good
it
to
would
know.
only be accept. I mean, also you remember like working in screen, so we need to record. You know,
Yeah.
we're recording these auditions, and you know there needs to be silence. There needs to be
Yeah.
quiet. There
Things
needs
like
to be. I guess maybe like the older the
Yeah.
child gets, perhaps the easier it might become.
Yeah.
But I've not seen it.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Okay. Aside from casting, do you I've actually never. Do you do anything else in the sense of, are you a writer or anything like that on the side of things at all?
No.
Yeah.
Just. I mean, the only thing, you know, I'm a casting director, but I also work with actors on audition technique and workshops. So it's under the umbrella of casting director, I guess. But that's because I enjoy working with actors and enjoy that kind of. I guess that's teaching in a way.
Yeah.
You know, it's coaching. It's that side of it as well.
So I guess then, in that case, looking at things like teaching, coaching, how has motherhood impacted, I guess, the creativity of that side? If at all. It might not have done, but just wondering.
That's interesting. I guess. Oh, I don't know. It's a tricky one, isn't it, for the teaching? I guess I think it would help in terms of if I were to work with younger people, perhaps maybe it might help in that respect. But my mind's gone totally blank. Really. I think it's probably given me more patience.
Okay.
That's actually something that might be worth mentioning. Just more kind of patience in. Yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a huge amount of patience as a mum. Yeah. So I think that can kind of translate into most work environments. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Patience has always been a lesson I've needed to learn all my life, so I'm learning that in doses.
Yes.
Now,
yeah. You don't always have it, do you? But it's a lot.
Taking it back to the birthing stage, what is your most vivid memory of birth, if you have one? It's the smile on your face that's getting me right now. So I think she's got many a vivid memory.
I know, there's like literally like so many different images coming into my head. I think that I had a birth ball that I spent a lot of time on bouncing and in various positions.
Yes.
So that's one that really kind of comes to mind with the TENS machine on and finding
my TENS
different positions in terms of that.
Yeah.
That's the strongest one I think that comes up for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I tend to typically ask, for some reason I found that there's always a new project that happens with a baby for some. There's always like, I just started doing X, Y, and Z. Have you had any of those moments where you've picked up a new something? I don't know.
A new something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something.
You might not a new hobby or something like that. You might not be the case at all. But I
don't know. I used to not love walking.
Okay.
And I've definitely had to embrace walking. So I think that someone told me, what was it? Where was it? It was a really amazing comic book of motherhood. And it was in one of the news, I think it was in The Guardian and it was basically that mums that something you don't realise is you always used to think people with prams are going somewhere. Like they have to be somewhere. They're really important. Actually, like you're just aimlessly like wandering around with the pram, trying to sleep, trying to, you know, all of those things. So I definitely have walked more. Okay. My area in Southeast London is so hilly. And so like it's not easy walking up hills with a pram. Yeah. And I used to be really into...
You're already stepping up your health and fitness so much more than you realise, because you've got hills. You've got inclines, so you're working.
We're pushing heavy prams up hills, or hold, you know, the sling is a good workout as well. Yeah, so definitely walking is one of those new things that
you've taken
up.
Always is something.
I didn't choose to take it up. I feel like I had the necessity to take it up.
Yeah. What has been your biggest love throughout this whole experience? Well, at least, So I know motherhood is forever a journey, but thus far, what's been your biggest love?
I think, you know, when you have, obviously we all have purpose in our lives, and we, you know, we use work and we have a purpose, and work is our thing, our life, and we kind of put so much into that. And there are other purposes as well, you know, in family and all of that. But I think motherhood has kind of given me that purpose even more. And it's given me a job that I have like no time to think about the worries or the anxieties or things like that. I just have to do that one thing, and that purpose is to be a good role model and to be her mum and to look after her, basically. So I think it's kind of given me a clearer purpose in life. And now I think, you know, after the kind of first few months of madness, I think now I'm really starting to see a personality, Clover's personality coming through. Cool. And she is kind of giving me glimpses of that, and I'm starting to like know her. Whereas I think before you kind of trying to work this person out and work this baby out and work out who she is. And now I'm starting to see that a little bit, which is really exciting. That's a love. Yeah, that's the big part of what I'm loving. Yeah.
That's great. What's your biggest what would be your biggest bit of advice for anyone, I guess, in our industry who is trying to understand how to navigate starting a family? You know, I understand we can be very much, we want to wait for, I guess from an actor side at least, you know, you want to book that job or book this first before you embark on this space sometimes. So I understand how you can put these things in the way of living life in a certain manner. Wow, English is still struggling. I hope that made some sort of sense, you know?
Yeah, no, it did. I think I kept putting it off a lot just because of the worry of financial worries. And I remember having a bit of a kind of, in my third trimester, being really, really kind of panicked all of a sudden about how we're going to manage financially this massive thing. I think, you know, it will happen and you will make it work. And I don't think there's ever necessarily like a right time or a good time, and I remember I used to be worried about kind of, are we, you know, where we live is where we live okay to bring a baby up, and is there enough space and all of this? And it's like, if you really want to make it work, you will. And don't kind of just keep putting it off for things, because I think you will make it work, and you'll love that person when that person is here.
100%.
And it's never going to be a perfect. I don't think you'll ever tick everything off the list and say, I want this, this, and this, and this, and this all to be perfect before I have a baby. I just think that life doesn't quite work like that. Like I think there are things you have to work with.
I gotta all surrender to at the same time. That is true. Yeah, for sure. Okay. I think with that,
Yay.
we'll call it. Thank you so much for your time today.
No worries.
And for sharing.
All good. It's been great.
Yeah,
it's been nice to be in a work, like a work head, but also be allowed to be in a mum head as well.
Yeah.
And I guess what we were talking about in terms of like children being part of, do you see that in casting directors' lives? Probably not. But this is a space which allows you to kind of merge the two and talk about them
freely,
next to each other.
With no judgment. And if there are swear words involved, there are swear words involved, and that is fine.
Exactly.
But yeah. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.